I ought to start this video with a couple of apologies. The first is to those of our subscribers who voted in our poll a few months ago that you'd like to see us stick purely to 7s based videos, since this video is not a 7, but unfortunately, you were in the minority. Fear not though, we are still going to be at least 90% 7s, we're just mixing it up a little here. The second is an apology to all of you, since this video is a list of 32, albeit split into 2 parts, rather than 7, we won't be able to afford as much time and detail to each player and country, or feature as many honourable mentions as we would like. Just so you're all clear on the concept, we are living in a magical realm where every one of the 32 World Cup nations could bring back one of their legends in place of a current member of their 23-man squad. To prevent this simply being the best player in the history of each squad, we tried to also factor in weaknesses and areas where they could benefit the most from an incoming great. Okay, here are our selections. Egypt. MAHMOUD El-KHATIB. One could make a very good case that Egypt's greatest ever player is only 25 years old and he is in their 23-man squad for the finals in Russia. But one player Egyptians would love to bring back into the fold would be MAHMOUD El-KHATIB. The 1983 African Footballer of the Year, El-KHATIB was a very skillful false 9 who featured for Al Ahly and the Egyptian national team throughout the 1970s and 80s. He beats Mohamed Aboutrika to this inclusion since Egypt's current squad lacks a seriously prolific central striker. Russia. Lev Yashin. Sorry to be boring, but there are really only 2 genuine candidates for Russia, Lev Yashin and Edward Streltsov. Both would improve their current very limited squad immeasurably, but we have to go with Yashin. Quite simply the greatest goalkeeper of all time, he would make facing Russia a far more daunting prospect, and they already have a couple of strikers who can score goals up top. Saudi Arabia. Majed Abdullah. An easy choice for Saudi Arabia, their squad looks a weak one at World Cup level in almost all areas, so we've selected by far their finest ever footballer. The Saudis do have a prolific forward in the form of Mohamed El Salawi, but Majed Abdullah was in a slightly different league. He scored 260 goals in 240 games at club level and 79 goals in 116 games for Saudi Arabia. Abdullah would provide both a real presence and an immense goal threat for Saudi Arabia. Uruguay. Jose Andrade. This was a tough one. Uruguay are 2-time World Cup winners and the most successful nation in the history of the Copa America, so there are plenty of players to choose from. Obviously their current squad looks strongest up front right now with Luis Suarez and Edinson Cavani, and we think arguably its weakest area is in midfield. For that reason, we've gone for Jose Andrade, who could run games for La Celeste. Probably the finest defensive midfield player in the history of the game, Andrade would bring balance, class and intelligence to an already dangerous Uruguayan squad. Iran. Ali Daya. We'd have quite liked a midfield player here too, but most of Iran's greatest ever players have been forwards. Ali Daya beats out Ali Karimi due to his incredible goal-scoring record at international level. The former Bayern Munich man scored 109 goals from 149 caps for Iran between 1993 and 2006, making him the all-time record scorer in international football. Morocco. NOUREDDINE NAYBET. Ahmed Faras may be the obvious choice for Morocco, often regarded as the country's greatest ever player and their all-time leading scorer, but we've gone with NOUREDDINE NAYBET. Tottenham fans may remember NAYBET as he spent 2 years with the club at the end of his career, having previously turned out for Sporting Club de Portugal and Deportivo La Coruña. NAYBET was a dependable centre-back for Morocco, winning 115 caps for his country, and we've selected him over Faras since they already have goals in their front line. Portugal. Mario COLUNA. Portugal is a pretty tough selection, with the likes of Luis Figo, Eusebio and Mario COLUNA the standouts. We've gone for COLUNA primarily due to Portugal's current needs. With Cristiano Ronaldo likely to play through the middle in Russia, and Portugal having decent options on the flanks, COLUNA was the obvious choice. One of the greatest box-to-box midfielders in the history of the game, COLUNA was a midfield colossus for Benfica and Portugal, and he would make this current Portugal squad genuine contenders. Spain. Xavi. I toiled with this one for a while. The current Spanish squad is one laced with quality, and my initial thought was that they could do with a standout centre forward, possibly David Villa or Telmo Zarra at the peak of their powers. In the end though, it just has to be Xavi. Probably the greatest Spanish footballer of all time, he was the beating heart of all conquering Barca and Spain sides, and although Spain have quality in the middle of the park already, there's no one quite like Xavi. Australia. Harry Kewell. It sounds cruel on the 38-year-old who was instrumental in Australia's qualification for the finals in Russia, but turning back the clock on Tim Cahill might be their best inclusion given his excellent track record on the international stage. We've gone for the obvious choice though, and the right choice really. At his best, Harry Kewell was frighteningly good. He had searing pace, supreme technique, and a wondrous left foot, and he'd give this Australia team a rare match-winning ability. Denmark, Michael Laudrup. Swapping Kasper Schmeichel for his dad would be a harsh but incredibly beneficial switch for Denmark, but ultimately we've opted for the nation's greatest ever player. Denmark's midfield is a solid one, with Christian Eriksen the current jewel in its crown, but even a fine footballer like Eriksen pales in comparison to the older Laudrup brother. One of the most elegant and gifted attacking midfielders the game has ever seen, the former Juventus and Barcelona man would make Denmark real dark horses in Russia. France, Michel Platini. France have really excellent forward options for this summer's World Cup, so that ruled out the likes of Thierry Henry and Just Fontaine. We contemplated someone like Lilian Thuram to shore up their backline, but in the end we went for star quality. You could make a case for Zinedine Zidane given his World Cup heroics, not that they were without fault, but we'd go for the all-round game of Platini. A superb technician, precision passer, and prolific scorer, Platini was the full package. Peru, Teofilo Cubillas. Peru looked like a well-drilled side, lacking genuine stars going into the 2018 World Cup, and ultimately they will have done well if they get out of the groups. Teofilo Cubillas is the obvious legend you'd bring back for Peru, since he is both the country's greatest ever player and has exceptional World Cup pedigree. Fantastic on the ball and a magician from set pieces, the attacking midfielder twice inspired Peru to reach the quarter-finals. Argentina, Alfredo Di Stefano. In Lionel Messi, Diego Maradona, and Alfredo Di Stefano, Argentina has given birth to three of the greatest players in the history of the game. Maradona may be the most obvious choice, but given Argentina's wellspring of talent in attacking areas already, we've gone for Alfredo Di Stefano, who we'd play as a deep-lying playmaker. Di Stefano was a player capable of individual genius, but he was also a marvellous all-rounder who brought out the best in those around him, and we think that's exactly what Argentina need. Croatia, Davor Suker. We were tempted to go with star of the 1940s and 50s, Stefan Bobic here, who averaged almost a goal a game over his career, but in the end we've gone for Davor Suker due to his World Cup pedigree. A classy and composed striker, Suker won the Golden Boot at the 1998 World Cup, finishing as runner-up to Zinedine Zidane in that year's Ballon d'Or. Nigeria, JJ Okocha. I don't care where their weak spots are, I'd pick JJ Okocha as Nigeria's returning legend, and you'd all thank me when the tournament got underway. A joyous footballer who played with a smile on his face, Okocha's skill and trickery was audacious and entertaining. He made people fall in love with the game, and he's also probably Nigeria's best ever player. Iceland, Ásgeir Sigurvinsson. These are halcyon days for Icelandic football, so there aren't a wealth of options in terms of previous greats here. Younger viewers may have expected Eidiger Johnson, but Ásgeir Sigurvinsson is the obvious choice. A really industrious and hard-working attacking or central midfielder, he'd slot nicely into this current Icelandic squad, as well as bringing a touch of class in terms of his touch, technique, and passing abilities. So that's it for the top 7. Thanks for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe to HITC Sevens.